the LEC post-game lobby. I'm Quickshot, joined by Ender and XL's Caedrel. Caedrel, thank you so much for joining us. I know it has been a very long day for you, but hopefully a happy one, hopefully a good one.
I mean, yeah, 2-0 weekend, you can't go wrong with that, can you?
Now, I cannot hear him. With
Me
some
neither.
luck, you guys at home can. So while we work on that, we will get some time to talk to Caedrel about the success that XL has found this weekend. Just before we do that, let's dive into G2 versus Rogue. I mean, what a game. I was screaming, I was jumping, I was both happy and sad at the exact same time.
Don't ask me what happened because I have no idea from watching that game. That was madness.
Do they know what happened?
No, I honestly, like, when you're watching the lane swap, it's obviously been a super long time since we've seen a lane swap, at least on the professional stage. I'm not sure if people have been practicing this. I'm sure Rogue have put some time in on it. But it seems like everyone was sort of scrambling to figure out what it was they needed to do, right?
Yeah.
From Wonder trying to reset when he realizes he's about to be dove 3v1 in the top side, getting down bot lane, the dives going haywire down there. What it turned into was this, game of cat and mouse where I think G2's bot lane tried to find out Rogue on the other side, but I was super impressed with how Hansama and Vander played in particular. Hansama's gun management inside the laning phase when there were these engagement was really good. He was hiding his Gravitum gun, flashing forward, going for these plays, and while he didn't always net a kill, I was right off the bat saying this is a clean Rogue that I thought was going to be able to finish it.
Now, I felt like this was a story of 3 parts. Part 1, Rogue looked good. Part 3, G2 looked pretty good. Part 2, I don't want to go into it. Do you think that is a fair assessment if you break down the game into like 15-minute chunks?
I mean, yeah, it was sort of like, what's the best way to do it? Like Star Wars prequels. Episode 1, right, you find Aphelios, you find Anakin over on Tatooine. He's looking good, he smurfs it, blows up the big Trade Federation ship. Episode 2, he's training up, he's getting his items, he's looking nasty. And then episode 3, all of a sudden, they turn to the dark side. They start inting. Finn runs down mid lane. The
I love the analogy. I didn't realize you were as much of a Star Wars fan. We'll have to explore this a little bit more. Now, I'm not sure if we have Caedrel back. I'm waiting for the production team to let me know. Once we do have confirmation that everything's sorted, we will get him to chime in not only on this game, but as well as his own one. So let's give this a try. Caedrel, welcome to PGL. What did you think of G2 versus Rogue?
I hope you can hear me now. I think it was a complete bloodbath. But Rogue took it somehow.
I'm not. Well, maybe the fans can. So I'll tell you what, Caedrel, you talk to the fans, right? We won't be able to hear you, but tell the fans what you thought of G2 versus Rogue.
I mean, the lane swap was smart, and I can't really hit towers. Aphelios got some plates. Oh, you can hear me?
Yes! I can hear you now. Welcome to PGL, Mark. We can finally hear you. I really appreciate it. I can see not only like how uncomfortable it is, but also knowing that you're British descent. Like, this was a really challenging situation for you as an individual as well as a guest. So, yeah, you saw Aphelios getting plates. What do you think about the rest of the game?
I mean, it was just a complete bloodbath. There was fights everywhere around the map. Kha'Zix was making picks here and there, forcing flashes before teamfights. And then, yeah, G2 just won teamfight somehow, which is kind of surprising.
Did you think G2 were going to win the game before it had all started and the action hit the fan?
Well, G2's been in kind of a slump, so I thought Rogue would take it because they're 10-2. But, I mean, Rogue had a really good strat coming into it, but it just didn't work out. It's obviously something they've definitely practiced, but yeah, it didn't work out.
No, it absolutely didn't. Right, I want to move on to something just a little bit more exciting and closer to home right now. XL, they're 6-3 over the last 9 games. You guys got another 2-0 weekend. I believe it's the 3rd in the franchise history, the 2nd of summer. Caedrel, tell me about the weekend, tell me about the wins and how you and the team are feeling.
Oh yeah, it feels wonderful. I mean, we had a really bad week of scrims. Maybe you saw Young Bucks tweet. But then we went 2-0 this weekend, so yeah, it was really surprising that we won this weekend. But I mean, I think when it comes to stage games, we just step up.
Yeah, and I feel like we definitely saw that, especially like I'm thinking back to yesterday's game too, where Special and Cries, I feel like we haven't seen the full potential of them unlocked just yet. But in that game yesterday, they were both on these, you know, later game carries that can dive into the backline. They looked really nuts. You landed every single smite fight around the Dragon. I think the Heralds might not have gotten your way, but the Dragon and the Elder, the Soul, all that went super, super well for you, and you're able to build up a big lead playing through bot lane here again today. So I was pleasantly surprised with Excel because we were sort of trying to figure out like who's going to be our playoff teams actually outside of Mad Lions and Rogue. We came in and there's 8 teams, 7 teams that are all fighting for that one. I think Excel really put up a good showing this week.
Now, just before I get Caedrel to chime in, yesterday I had a very big discussion between XL versus SK, and Frosk has been a fan of XL and their potential for a little while. Coming into today's Ready Check, Ender and Vedius both predicted that XL be one of the 6 teams to make playoffs. Ender. Now we've seen all the games, you've seen week 6 concluding. Tell me a little bit about your expectations for what you'll see from XL in the coming weeks, and then I want to hear Caedrel chime in.
Well, so the interesting thing to me is because I speak with a lot of coaches around the league, and I've always heard that Excel are quite a good team. Like coming into the split, I heard very good things about what was going on in scrims and all this stuff, and I didn't feel like that got actualized on stage. I think you guys ended up dropping quite a few games earlier on, but I was sort of told like believe in it just a little bit. So I was waiting to see, especially like your newer players, see how they develop on the stage, and I think this weekend was a very strong step in the right direction. And I always know I'm going to get insane performance out of Patrick in the bottom lane, and it's that consistency combined with potential high ends of those younger solo laners that I think can make this a strong playoffs contender.
Caedrel, what does the next few weeks have in mind?
Time is the most important thing for us. Yeah, time is most important for us, kind of, because Kreis is kind of he's finding his footing, kind of, in the LEC. You can see he's the only top laner who's just busting out all the carries. You know, he's played Quinn, Kayle, and now even Camille a couple times. So he's slowly getting into the rhythm of LEC. Patrick is like our rock. You know, you can see him in every game. He's absolutely popping off. But yeah, we had quite a tough schedule going into the first couple of weeks. So when you have a brand new roster against teams like G2, Origin, Fnatic, obviously we struggled a bit at the start, but we had a really good out of game sort of culture. So we didn't really tilt or get frustrated at each other. We just kept going forwards and forwards, and I think that's just something it's going to help us throughout the rest of the split and even the end of the split, because we're kind of steamrolling now, and hopefully if we keep this train going, then we're going to make playoffs.
Now, Caedrel, can I ask you, because I feel like, especially because we don't have you guys playing actually in the studio, it's hard to get a read on a lot of the newer players and the rookie players. So I want to ask about Kreis and what his personality is sort of like, because when you see picks like the Kayle and the Quinn up in the top, like these insane carry picks that no one else is playing, like I want to believe that he's the guy that's super confident, comes in and is saying like, give me this, I'm going to dunk on whoever I'm playing against in the top lane. What can you sort of tell us about him as a person?
Well, he's, I'd say personality-wise, he's quite a shy individual, but when he gets to stage games, he's quite ballsy, you know, he just busts out champions. If you blind pick something a bit risky against him, he's going to pick a counter. You know, this guy has a champion ocean of counters ready for anyone, really. In scrims, he likes to test his limits a lot and go all in and flip it a lot, but when it comes to stage, he's really consistent, and I think the consistency's got better throughout the weeks. And I think when he's ahead on his carries, he can just take over the game most games. So, I mean, he hasn't played a tank yet, but I'll convince him one day.
I love the grin. I love the cheeky grin on Caedrel's face. You know, it's like it gives you a little bit more insight into what you can see from Kreis. Talk to me about this, the coaching staff and the support staff. I saw a fantastic tweet from somebody in the organization saying that the 2-year plan is coming to fruition. XL have not made playoffs yet. This is the 4th split now, and this feels like the closest maybe, or maybe the most realistic. You know, what's it like from their perspective, and how close you are to actualizing that goal?
Yeah, XL, I've been on XL since the start of their journey in LEC, and obviously I haven't made playoffs once yet with them, which is really disappointing for myself especially. But the whole plan coming into LEC has gotten better and better throughout the splits. We've gotten a stronger roster, and I think now we're just steamrolling, and we're just getting better and better, and we have really good coaching staff around us to implement good habits, good culture. And I think we may not be like the best individual players, but it's a team game, and I think we're coming together really well as a team. And outside of the game, we're growing really well together. Inside the game, it's getting better and better every week. But the plan is coming together.
Well,
XL is coming for playoffs.
Let's see if it pays off. Let's quickly take a look at the standings. So the big winners today in the race for playoffs, obviously XL, G2, Fnatic, SK. They all took big steps towards that postseason. Now Rogue are still in first along with Mad Lions despite the teams losing. Caedrel, I want you to look at the standings and give me your perspective on the state of the LEC. It has been an ongoing discussion, the strength of our region, expectations for Worlds, etc. What's your take? And I'm sure you've seen these comments, so what do you think?
Well, best of ones are quite messy, and I think the table is quite split into loads of different places. I mean, you've got G2 and teams like Fnatic lower down the standings, and they should be Mad Lions and Rogue at the top, but the rookies are playing really well, this split especially. I mean, we're in 5th place right now, and we've got the head-to-head, I think, against Vitality and SK, so that'll help us. We beat G2, so if G2 is our competitor for playoffs, that's going to be a thriller if we lose and there's a tiebreaker or something. Like, I can't wait for something like that if it comes to it. But hopefully it doesn't, so we just make playoffs anyway, but it's going to be crazy.
So I want to know, because right now...
I don't want to play a tiebreaker against G2.
It's so funny because you started the sentence being like, it would be thrilling, it would be so exciting. I really wanted to. Oh, wait, hang on. What did I just say? No. Bail out, bail out.
See, I want you to tell me, because right now, if you're making playoffs... Caedrel, if you're making playoffs, one of those teams up there isn't. Who are you kicking out?
I mean, we're going to kick out SK and Vitality for sure. I mean, we lost to Misfits once. But if we can keep going and beat Misfits and force a tiebreaker worst case, then yeah, that should be our way into playoffs. So we should be able to make it. But there is a world where it's XL versus G2 for playoffs. And if that world comes to it, it's going to be a thriller.
Oh my word, that's crazy. Let's talk about Fnatic for a second because we haven't touched on them too much. They picked up a pretty convincing win today. Very different look for them in the draft and play style. What did you make of their performance?
Yeah, I think Fnatic, they came into the split not looking too hot. They had lost a lot of games randomly, but they also won a lot of games randomly, you know, versus Misfits. They were like 10,000 gold down, and then they had some good fights and came back. I mean, they have the solid veterans like Hylissang, Bwipo, you know, these Reckless, these kind of players will always step up, and with those 3 core players, you're always going to make playoffs probably and always be a strong team. And Nemesis had a slump as well, but it looks like he's been stepping it up, and I think Southmade's been really consistent too. So even though they've had a couple of shaky games here and there, I still think they're pretty strong.
Caedrel, can you give us a little bit of perspective as well in terms of the... I'm going to use the word bias. That's not really the right word, but the confidence, the trust, the faith that teams like G2, Fnatic, Origin have. There's this plot armor around them. You just said these veteran players that you expect to step up. And we've heard from so many teams, we're seeing it on Reddit, the casters are saying it, that the expectation is that the likes of those players, those teams will always make playoffs. Do you think that's true? Do you think that's fair? Or do you think the new teams like yourselves and Mad Lions and Rogue can actually eliminate those old guard from making it to the postseason?
I think to a point, the veterans will always bring you through. I think the last couple of splits, they've already always brought Fnatic through the playoffs, no matter the slump. I think there was also a split where they went like 1-5 or 0-6 at the start and they brought it back. But I think as the years go on, you know, when it gets to season 11, season 12, when more and more rookies come in, it'll become more and more difficult. So you can see the struggle for Fnatic and G2 to make playoffs this split is obviously a lot harder than it was last year or the year before. So it's getting progressively each year harder and harder the more rookies come in, just testing them and challenging them with new ideas, new metas, just bringing out random picks like Mad Lions with the Senna Wukong and all these crazy things that maybe some veterans aren't really sort of used to. And yeah, I think slowly they'll fade out more and more and become less reliable unless they keep on their toes.
You know, I was chatting with Frosk behind the scenes, and she had a killer line, so I'm just going to rip it off right here exactly. I credit where credit's due, is all hers. But we were looking at Fnatic today, and she said, one of the giants of the LEC woke up today. And I thought that was really powerful because it's another way to describe these teams that are there. They still have the same players, and it feels like they've been asleep for the entire split. And I'm not back on the Fnatic hype train yet. I don't think one good game restores faith, but what it does say is those players and the talent is still there. Right. And all they have to do is tap into that again. And that makes me think, yes, they do have the ability then to show up in playoffs.
And I mean, is that scary for you, Caedrel? Like, you see that Fnatic, you hear a statement like this, we see G2 picking up that win. I know you've joked a little bit about it, but like, you're competing so close with really so many teams. Are the sleeping giants something that you and the rest of the LEC should be afraid of?
Yes and no. I think in the case of best of one, these kind of giants and the storylines behind their past and how successful they were isn't as stand out as when it comes to something like playoffs. When you play a best of 5 against these players, I think they definitely wake up and they get a bit of a reality check and they play a lot better, a lot more consistent, a lot more effort is put in. So when it comes to best of 5s, I think the real giants and the real kings will start to show. But the best of 1 format until the end of the splits might be a bit messy. But I think playoffs will definitely outline who the strong teams are.
Oh, I love your word usage, Caedrel. It's like you've been on the show before.
We didn't say king.
So
Caedrel
good.
did,
Oh,
okay?
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Do that.
Listen, I want to move us along a little bit. I want to take a look at the Kia player of the game. Leaderboard, Crownshot is currently leading ahead of Lawson and then Patrick, Caps, and Humanoid. How does it feel to see Patrick on there with 4 Pog champs? Obviously, every time you guys win, he pretty much exclusively wins it. Does that annoy you, or is that something that's quite fun in the XL camp?
Patrick, my man. I mean, I'm stuck on my tanks, Set, Volibear, all these good old champs, but it's good to see him pop off with his
He's bitter.
every now and then.
That sounds
Ezreal,
better
so.
to me.
Everyone wants to play the Kha'Zix,
Yeah, I mean,
you know?
I would love to play some Kha'Zix and Lee Sin.
I knew it. Yeah,
You never know.
Maybe, hey, Young Buck, if you're watching, just hook our boy up here. Let him have some fun. It's funny, though, that you're saying...
Joey, hook me up.
I love it. It's funny that you call it a Pog leaderboard, though, because with Crowny in first, all I'm seeing is the Wide People Happy leaderboard, and I kind of like it.
That's it. I'm trying to learn Twitch chat. The Padawan is teaching me, but it doesn't come naturally to the old Jedis. Next week, the race for playoffs continues with some pivotal matchups. Fnatic and Rogue will be closing out the day. G2 will be taking on Fnatic on Saturday. This got a whole lot more interesting. And Caedrel, you guys will be playing Schalke and then Misfits on the Saturday. Let's focus on your game specifically. You've already got a loss to Misfits. We just saw Schalke really kind of stepping up this weekend. Are you more nervous about those games now, especially again with how close everything is?
I mean, Schalke seems to have woken up in a way. I think the addition of Gideus has helped them a lot. That guy's been popping off. Every time I look at their games this weekend, he has like 10 kills, so he must be doing something right. I mean, they're a pretty strong team, actually. I think the standing doesn't really reflect their strengths. So it will be pretty tough to get a win against Schalke, I think. But if we do get 2 wins this weekend, I think we're in a super good spot. So lots of work for this weekend, for sure.
Yeah, very important. Ender, any specific matchups you're looking forward to next week?
I mean, G2 Fnatic you're obviously looking at.
I said, are you looking forward to? Not like the ones that we're going to script.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no. Honestly, I really just want to ask you, because, I mean, you're talking about Schalke like they were good. I was more curious, like, are you more worried about Schalke or Misfits?
Actually, I think I'm more worried about Schalke, but I'm not really worried about either one, because, I mean, we should be able to beat these 2 teams if we're going to be a playoffs team anyway, so hopefully we just steamroll next week and then on to the 3 kings of Europe.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Look, I'm going to have to wrap it there. Caedrel, just before we end up the day, is there anything that you would like to say to the XL fans, everybody at home? I know there was a lot of, let's say, ignoring. You know, XL wasn't really in the show, but you guys are stepping up. So send a message to the fans and everyone watching at home.
XL Esports, la 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 la. We're going to go to playoffs.
Oh, so good, so good.
I love it.
That was all from us here tonight. Thank you so much, Caedrel, for sticking around. But over in the LCS, One of Thieves versus CLG is already underway. I know we're just wrapping up, but to everyone that supports it, happy Christopher Street Day. Be who you are. Be proud of who you are, because I am indeed. We'll see you next Friday for more LEC action. And let's see if Caedrel can go 2-0 and make it to playoffs.
Let's do it.
I love it.
As there's a 4A gang. Nice lantern.
Setup is good. Flash over the wall. Excellent for LeBron. Now pulled back. He's going to have flash to safety, but ooh, is he just going to go down? Taking. One more. Ano's going to do it. Patrick going to get out of that one. Gets the QSS just in time, and now LeBron has given his life as well. The double kill for Patrick. Okay, also coming in. They know Gillies is here as well. Gillies can just push all. They want to finish the one off. Now he's going back in, and Senna comes in across the map. Definitely Misfits biting off more than they can chew. Abadagi now moving in. Double kill for Odo.
Let's do it.
Genex on the flank, Shadow diving forward, but he's exhausted straight away and he's already dead. Limit's gonna take him out, Humanoid gets one, but Genex is gonna answer it. And this is it, the show has been stopped for Mad Lions. They were on their way to first in the league, but SK will Quiver's going to try and get away. Locked up underneath the turret. Alfari taking it up. They can't quite get the damage down. Prippo will fall. Xerxes goes down as well. Alfari has already fallen. And watch the Dragons smite Origin as Fnatic just destroy them at the Elder Dragon. 22 kills to 7. Inspired coming in from behind. The Temper Fate will lock them both up. Vander able to tank up the tower for as long as he wants. The base break. Perks just steps back forward into that. Temper Fate comes out. That hits Inspired. You can burst around that. Cats have to do it. Oh, the Temper Fate, the combo! Uses the QSS to get out of it. Mickey though still on the front. Hans Summer doesn't have the best of guns for this fight. And there's the Desgrass who pulls him back in Hans Summer. Goodbye Larson, goodbye Hans Summer. And welcome back to the LEC